If that's true, then you must know my mother's maiden name. What is it? What is it?
What's the good news?
As a matter of fact, that's Lawrence.
No more room in hell. The dead will walk here.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to it's going to be a special anniversary episode. Before we talk about the movie, though, we are down one member, but it is actually three corners because this one, Lexi, and she has been dying to do this one. We mentioned we were going to do it, and she saw that it was the format, and she's like, I want in. So, Lexi, the fourth corner, you ready for this one?
I am so ready. I'm definitely ready because this has been a film I've seen since I was 5, and I've been seeing it every day of my life. I've watched it 100 million times, so I'm excited to talk about this one.
And as, of course, Rick would say, JR, the man, the method. Damn it. Why do I always get that wrong? The man, the myth, the legend. All right. And as Rick would say, the man, the myth, the legend, JR, my brother. You ready for the... Oh, don't want to say the movie just yet. You ready for this one, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to talk about this one. We haven't talked about this one, and this is one of those that you gotta like dust up a little bit and see if it still turns heads.
Well, and the movie that we are discussing is going to be The Exorcist. This is the 50th anniversary. I am the only person on this panel that can say they were born when this movie came out. I was a year old when it came out, but it is the 50th anniversary. So tonight we are talking about the 1973 movie, The Exorcist. It is directed by William Friedkin, written by William Peter Blatty, and it stars Ellen Burstyn as Chris McNeil, Max von Sydow as Father Marin, Jason Miller as Father Karras, and Linda Blair as Regan McNeil. If you have not seen this movie, well, it is obviously about an exorcism. Regan becomes possessed, but you have in here a couple other stories with the detective, some guests that come to the party. I read this book, so there's a little parts in there that were not put in. I've obviously seen the director's version of this, but the movie is basically a mother looking for help on her daughter who has mysteriously become ill. When I was asked to join the channel by JR, we came up with The Psychologist is In, and The Exorcist, and of course I took, was what pretty much created that show. Like, that's how much this movie, even a professor wants you to write a paper on it. So I'm going to ask you guys these questions because I have talked about this movie so many times that I now want to hear other people tell me about it. So, is this one of the greatest horror movies of all time? And Lexi, I'm going to start with you.
By far the best exorcism film of all time, and it still holds true 50 years later. The cast itself, the way they do the effects of the show without like CGI and stuff like that in this film in 1973, like, it's a badass movie. Especially with the effects of like her puking, and we'll get more into details, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And again, if you haven't seen it, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?
It's been out for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right. It's been around 50 years and it still holds as the all-time best exorcism movie. There's nothing that's going to top it. And there's ones that are really good. There are, but it's just not going to top this one. And it's going to be always like Joe here. It's going to be my all-time fave.
How about you, JR? Would you consider this one of the greatest? I'm not saying best. I'm actually using the word greatest horror movies of all time.
Oh, it is top five. I mean, it is one of the best ones. I mean, everybody's list varies, but it is one of the movies that helped put horror on the map. Because remember, it was about a child being possessed. If it was an adult, would it still hold? Maybe not. But being the fact it's a child that's being possessed, and I mean, she literally broke her back for this role because she literally broke her back in this film. Um, but yeah, I mean, like Lexi was saying, the effects still hold. I mean, the head turning is still one of
Classic.
the most famous scenes
Wow.
in the movie. We'll talk about it later. Is it my favorite, part of the exorcism? But yeah, no, it still holds good. I mean, 50 years and you still watch it now, you know, being us that we've watched so much horror, like rewatching the shock value wasn't there as it was when you first watch it, but you still appreciate what they were doing because there are some scenes in this film that push boundaries even for those times, and
Oh yeah.
especially the fact that it's still a child being
Yep.
possessed and saying things a child would not say.
And if you don't watch the director's cut, there's definitely scenes that are cut, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
from the original. Like if you like today, I had my daughter watch it for the first time, and we bought it off Amazon, and it's not the director's cut, so she's hasn't seen the scenes that are missing, which we can point those out later.
Oh, yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I just said, oh yeah.
Oh, but yeah, like I said, there's scenes that are I wish they would just put it in and not make it a director's cut. It's just really I don't know how you guys feel about that. I just think they should have all just mashed it in. But I mean, without those scenes in there, it's already a 2-hour movie, so it's probably going to be even longer. So that's probably why that it's a director's cut.
Well, people back in the 70s went to the theaters for that long. Like they
Yeah.
actually, there was not a lot going on. You didn't have a whole busy day. So going to a movie theater for 2.5 hours, I mean, people would have lined up for it. And little fun fact here on what JR said with breaking her back. If you haven't watched any of the documentaries, I think even Eli Roth
Yeah.
included it in one of his series. I had seen this thing where all this stuff that the director did, and when you see Reagan going up and down as she's bouncing on the bed, she's on this wood board that she's strapped down to, that's hooked up to a mechanism. So this kid was literally thrashed around. I mean, I can't imagine feeling that like 3 or 4 times up and down. I'm done.
More than my back.
Yeah, I mean, so that the commitment that went into getting these scenes done that William did, it was definitely some stuff that pushed boundaries on what directors should and should not be doing. As JR said, he got a little girl to swear and say a whole lot of things that a little bit not pushed on. As JR said, the movie has the infamous head turn. This movie scenes are quotable. Everybody can describe scenes. Hello, Scary Movie recreated it as a comedy. There's a lot of scenes in this movie. Now, I'm sure that Lexi's going to bring some of these up because in the director's cut, you get some scenes you don't get on the theatrical cut. However, there's just so many throughout the movie, whether it's scary or just the beautifully shot, another one. I'm going to see if anybody mentions that one. But what scenes from this movie, like when you sit there and think about it, those are the memorable ones that come to you. Jared, I'm going to go first to you on this one. Like, what were the most memorable scenes in this movie for you?
All right, the first one, which didn't have anything to do with the actual exorcism, was memorable because it was so screwed up. Where how do you take a girl, put her in a room with a bunch of doctors, and then they put a thing in her neck and she's squirting blood out and they're just leaving it there. I know do the exorcism. I'm saying, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
These are professional. I mean, you're doing this little girl, but for me, like the scene I love the most because I like the vision of things and the scene where Marin and Karis are on the floor during the exorcism, and they look up, and she stands on the bed. You see the silhouette of the demon statue, which circles back to when he was in northern Iraq, I believe, at a dig site, and he went to this one specific site, which was, I mean, you can make the assumption there was a lot of Satanism in this area,
Yeah.
but the fact that it comes back around full circle, he saw the statue in Iraq, he ends up seeing it right behind her over the bed, beautifully shot. I mean, that's for me visually the most stunning scene in this whole film as far as the way it was filmed and shot.
Right.
And I mean, there's another scene I don't really want to get into too much because it was very disturbing, especially for the little girl. Is
The
where
crucifix.
yes, and she's
Yeah.
just doing things to herself that you're like,
Not only the crucifix, but bringing her mother's head.
Oh, yeah.
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 Those two
Yes.
scenes, I'm like, oh my god, because I totally forgot about those two scenes.
Mm.
But this movie, it does offer, and I like that the director was able to capture those two things where you have the pushing the boundaries, what this demon is doing to this little girl at the same time, where you take a step back. All right, let me put this beautiful, visual, stunning scene of her, the statue behind her, and the whole room just like lit up behind her. That was my favorite scene in that whole film.
I love that scene. And that's why I was gonna see who was gonna say what, because there's quite a few. That one is still one that no matter how many times I've seen the movie and they show it, because it's that point, and and then she's with her arms, like like it's just the eeriness, like it's almost that moment where that something is going to go wrong for the fathers.
Yeah.
This was that there was the devil, the demon was going to win at that point, so, and that's why that scene is very powerful when they show it. What about you, Lexi?
Well, you guys took it. It was that same thing. It's the whole from Iraq to being in her bedroom and the eerie scene. So it's the same thing for me. But I mean, they're all iconic scenes, like from the levitation to the head twisting to the puke everywhere. Like all of it is fantastic, especially being back in 1973. It's all fantastic. But that really, I mean, the beginning of the movie being in Iraq sets you up for the movie, and then to see it kind of wiggle its way back, and throughout the whole, like when she was speaking in reverse and he recorded it, the priest recorded it. I mean, she's saying Marin the entire recording, and so she's pulling, fear the priest, fear the priest. So, I mean, that was my favorite scene as well. But just the progression of seeing Regan. The other thing I want to mention is just seeing the progression of seeing Regan, being this cute, innocent child, and then talking to Captain Howdy, to then you start, seeing the progression of the possession come through, where she tells everybody he's going to die and she pees on the floor. And then you start seeing the cuts from all the doctor stuff, and then progressing into full on cuts and puke and whiteness, and just like, and her whole body's graying, and the part where, I guess a backup part, since that was my favorite as well, is just the fact that the priest get called in the middle of the night, and you can see Regan write "help me" within her body. And that was a really cool scene, because there's a lot of exorcism movies out there today, between then and now, that you can see the demon go back and forth, help me, and then it goes back into the demon, and help me, and then back. No, she physically wrote it on her body, and you don't see that back and forth with Regan and the demon. It's strictly the demon the entire movie. So I really like that part, and there's just so much detail to this film, and that's why it's just going to be my all-time greatest film.
Now, and it's funny because Rick had texted me and said, hey, isn't there a scene where Regan goes down the stairs, like crawling? So that's not in the theatrical cut. That's actually in the director's cut, which is sitting right there behind me. I have my copy. In the director's cut, they did put in a lot more elements to elevate the movie even more. You know, there's this in the shadow where you see the demon's face. So many nuances that were added into directors. Like, I guess I had to buy a 4K DVD player now. Turns out, can you play 4K on a Blu-ray?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can? Oh, all
Yeah,
right. Because they just released the 50th anniversary on 4K for this one. And
That's
I'm like, damn it, I finished my Christmas list already. I would have put this one on there. One of you know, for me, obviously, when you know this movie kicks in, that my, you know, still holds true. It's on the cover of the DVD, and it's when Father Merrin gets there. You
Yes.
know, it's the ominous. It's the way the fog had enveloped the brownstone. That, you know, it because you know, the war, cloud of smoke, you know, buildings. So the fog was basically a symbolism of it's a battle about to come. And here this man comes walking in, steps out with his briefcase, and just stands there. The soundtrack is kicked in. I mean, it's one, besides the head twist, one of the more iconic scenes from here.
Yeah.
You know, as you guys said, when you see the statue, there's just so much stuff in here. And again, you know, especially when you get a chance to watch the directors and you see all these little extra things, you're like, oh my God. But I've still watched this movie and will find some little things here and there that I still haven't picked up with as many times as I've seen this movie. Well, hold on, I'm gonna top off my beer. I didn't chug down a whole thing of wine.
Hey, now I wish I had more shit.
I was about to say, I want to make sure.
I do have more, but it has a picture of my daughter's bowling team on it, so I don't want to open it.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to keep it forever. Yeah. Damn it, Sarah, that was my scene too.
I see it's beautiful. I love that scene.
Oh, it's the best scene. It's the best scene in the entire fucking movie.
We're gonna discuss, obviously, you know, when everything comes to a head here is the exorcism. You know, when Merrin comes in to help Father Karras, and everything basically, the shit just goes downhill. You are now these two priests, and Chris is involved in this exorcism. And Lexi, you started talking about the transformation. So I'm going to go to you first. So once this is pretty much kicked in and we get to this exorcism, let's just go ahead and discuss the exorcism part of this movie.
Well, for the exorcism itself, like, there's obviously not better priests, but for the relationship, there wasn't like a build-up relationship between Father Merrin and Karras. If you remember back where Karras is at the bar with a friend, I believe Dyer, right? Or somebody, I forget. He's at the bar and he just says that he lost his faith and he doesn't feel like he wants out of the priesthood and stuff to take care of his mother. But then he runs into this situation, right? Then Father Merrin comes in and they just like get down to business. They don't get to know each other. They don't build a friendship. They don't build a bromance, nothing. They just get right to work. They're there for business. And I like that. You don't get this long awaited, like some of these newer exorcism movies where
they drag you in. I'm gonna take you under my wing.
Yes. No, they get down to business. They just work together. They don't think like Merrin doesn't even think like, oh, he's unworthy, or he's like, he keeps him a little trained in the scene because he's like, don't listen to the demon. He's a liar. So I like the fact that they just got right down to business. They didn't care to get to know each other. They were there for the same thing, to help a child. And the iconic line of, go ahead, Joe, say it, your favorite part.
Demi, why you?
No, the other one, your other favorite compels you.
Oh.
You've been saying it all week.
Sorry. Oh, yes, of course, obviously. The power of Christ compels you.
Yes,
I
like
mean,
that's the best part because again, like I said, they don't have time to get to know each other. They only have a minimal amount of time. I mean, this girl is dying, and even Kara said like if we sedate her or something, he said, then it may put her into a coma. There's no way we can do anything medically. We need to get this done and done today and now. And so they just got down to business. And I love the fact that iconic scene where she's levitating, the power of Christ compels you. Like the whole thing was done iconically. And that's why it still holds 50 years later. The whole, I mean, you see all the memes and stuff on Facebook. Every single scene of this movie is out there. And even my daughter, who's never seen the movie before, she's like, when Chris the mother is walking from her job after doing that scene where she's being an actress or whatever out in the school. She's walking home, right? And you hear the tune in the background. And she's like, "Oh, I heard that before." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, because it's out there. There's memes out there on this film." And she's like, "Oh yeah, the twisting of the head. I've seen that around." Yeah, because it just holds true 50 years later. Like there's the exorcism itself is just iconic. There's nothing better to say about it. I am more curious to what JR has to say because I know that you and I, Joe, were like obsessed with this movie.
I mean, well, let's look at the lead up though before the exorcism, right?
Mhm.
You have her mom, who is a famous actress, who has money, and they can't solve this issue where she goes to the doctors. At one point, she's sitting there, 8 doctors. You guys can't tell me a single thing. I'm not taking my daughter to a psychiatric hospital. She's not committing her. So, ironically, what does the doctor do? Do you believe? Are you a religious person? So that was weird. Where they have a scientific community basically tell you, "What we're doing is not working. You need to go search
well,
for."
he might have been the one religious person.
Well, it was
And
two of them because
The
the
doctor.
woman said the same thing too. She was like,
yeah, the
'cause
religious people were the ones going,
yes,
we can't figure this is not
yeah,
shit we're gonna figure out.
and we can't figure out. Go to somebody else. Now you have Marin, who's basically on, you could say, exile, because while he's in Iraq, he is still recovering from the fact that he did an exorcism that the person, I believe, died, because it was mentioned later
Yep,
on.
yep,
So he's in self exile in a way. And then you have Karras, who he lost his faith because of his mom. So you have two priests going into an exorcism with their own demons they're fighting,
yep.
which
Mhm.
is an ironic twist to it. So the reason, like, Karras wanted to even tell, hey, let me tell you about the person. Maroon's like, I don't care. We got something to do. So right then and there, we're into total control, which is the ironic part is Karras was the weakest of the two.
Mhm.
He's the one that wanted to do it the most, but he was the weakest of the two. And the demon Regan, she knew that he was the weak link out of the two, and that's why I liked about it. It wasn't just about the possession; it was about these two other characters who are battling their own demons while fighting a demon. Which even there were times where Marin, he doubted that they were able to defeat it.
Yep. Father Marin dies at the end, has his heart attack, and Karras beats the fuck out of Reagan. I mean,
Mhm.
let's be quite honest.
Yes.
Like when you watch this movie, he fucked her up to
Mhm.
get the demon inside him, which leads you to The Exorcist 3. That's also on our channel if you haven't checked that out. But it was because you had it's both neither one of the priests made it out of this.
Oh, the demon won.
The demon won.
Yeah,
And the demon wanted Father Marin.
But
Mhm.
think about how the demon won. Marin kicked Karras out of the room, told him get out because he was failing him. Told him to get out the room. He left the room. Then basically he couldn't sustain what the demon was doing, gave him the heart attack, and then he runs in. Now, not only did he beat the crap out of Reagan, he beat the crap out of Marin too. Because that's not how you do to try to revive somebody, where you just beat the crap out of them
Yeah, that's not how CPR works.
Oh.
So I'm like, all right, you know,
we have CPR. Like, no, that's not how
We're
it works.
certified.
you
Yeah,
don't do it like that. And then he didn't use faith. He basically sacrificed himself
yeah.
because he had nothing else to live for. To be honest, he didn't. So then he
Right.
throws himself out the window and goes down the steps. And then the other priest comes and they're holding hands and he's still moving. I'm like, wow, this dude is still like, he's still twitching there. Even going down the steps, the demon will let him die quickly. He was basically suffered for a little longer. But yeah, I mean, that's what I like about the film. It wasn't just about the exorcism. There was multiple stories on top of it. And you have to sit there and enjoy the film and understand those multiple stories in the fact that you have flawed characters who are supposed to be like these holy people who are on a pedestal, and they're not. They don't put themselves on a pedestal because they're damaged. Let's be honest. They were both damaged going in, and Regan's demon took advantage because she knew they were both damaged.
I'm not even gonna ask the rate. Is this a 5 for everybody here? So
This
It
is
is
a 5.
all right. So there's literally we don't need to stop for the rating. This is a 5. Okay. We're gonna
And if
go
it
into our
wasn't, one's gonna hit you with the clinch it.
we're gonna go ahead into our closing thoughts because it's a 5 for all of us. I mean, if you've seen this movie, it's a 5 for you. If you have not seen this movie, well, watch it a couple times. It's gonna definitely be a 5 for you because you're gonna judge it against your CGI, against this fucking masterpiece that had zero CGI, none practical effects, well written, well acted. It's one of the movies you cannot top. So, Lexi, closing thoughts. Any last thoughts on this movie?
Honestly, if you haven't seen it, please, for the love of God, watch it. Like, that's my closing thought. Fucking watch it. Aside from that, my TED talk right there. This movie is an overall 5. There's no way around it. It's a setup for the generations of all exorcism movies. Like Joe said, it is a blueprint to all of everything moving forward. Now, again, and I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. My favorite character is Regan, not because that she's the main antagonist, but because of the fact that she acted so well at 12 to 14 years old. I think I don't know how old she really was, but I'm pertaining to the movie itself. She was 12 years old in the film, and to be that well spoken, to be that well in acting her part, she did fucking phenomenal. And I think you mentioned it, Joe, where she was cussing a lot, and I felt really bad for my daughter, which she hears me, and I'm a big cusser. And so, but it was a little, I don't go that badly off. And so when my daughter, I was like, oh shit, I forget.
I mean,
like, hell, you fucker. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Then she basically said your mother sucks cock in hell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
the other parts with the stabbing with the crucifix and then the mother coming down. Like, I was like, oh my God, Kaylee, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, this is awesome. Love it. And it's good to, you got to raise your children well, people. Like, make sure they watch The Exorcist. I watched it when I was 5, so probably
I
way
was
too young.
not that young.
And then I think I watched it after that. So, but anyway, yeah. There's just no way around this one. You have to watch it. You have to appreciate the fact that, like Joe said, there's no CGI. It's just an all-time #1 film for me.
All right, JR.
For me, I mean, it's ironic that Joe's #1 movie is a slow burn. I just gotta throw it out there.
Hold on.
That's so true.
One that has not been able to be replicated.
Mm-hmm. No, I give it that. For me, my favorite, if we're gonna go favorite character real quick, my favorite character was Marin because I like the fact that in the beginning he was on the journey and he was looking for answers. I'm sure the answers he was looking for was because it lay heavy on him that he lost somebody and he lost his battle with a demon because the child lost his life. So I like the fact that it started with somebody already on his journey looking for answers, and unfortunately, he died not being able to get the answers he wanted. He tried to be as strong as he can be, and unfortunately, it was his health, that his heart that gave way, a heart that was heavy with the burden of trying to save another life.
At least for me, I mean, like I said, guys, the movie spawned a show on our channel, to be quite honest with you. Having, if you didn't watch that episode, I have a degree in psychology. One of my professors sent the description, and it was to watch The Exorcist. You had to detail all the psychological tests and everything they diagnosed her with. And then at the end of your paper, say, is this a horror movie, or was this psychological? I had to, like, if you didn't watch it, I replied and said, I just want to be clear that you want me to watch The Exorcist and that you want me to tell you if this is going to be horror or psychological. And the professor said yes. I said, challenge accepted. Wrote this paper. I got an A on it. Spawned off into a show on our channel. This movie, I don't have cable on the weekends, and they do have free cable if I'm flipping around and the movie's there. I don't care what spot it's on. I'm watching it.
Right.
I mean, and I during Halloween season, October, obviously, some of the channels were playing the movie, and I'm at work. And even though I had commercials and I sat through almost 4 hours of a movie, I was okay with it. I mean, this movie stands the test of time. 50 years. There are not many horror movies out there that are 50 years old, stand the test of time, is something that you can go to if you're entering into the horror genre and checking out movies. You're going to see this movie, but what you're going to appreciate from this movie
Right.
is, as we've been saying, this was practical. It was acting. It was characters. It was a child actress put in a really hard role. This asked a lot of Linda Blair, and she did come back for Exorcist 2, the Heretic.
Yeah.
I think I pronounced that right. That one is okay. 3 is good. 3 is great, actually. Once I resaw it again, one of the best scare scenes. They did do the prequels, which was Beginning and Dominion. I think they were like 1 or 2 year apart. However, it had Stellan Skarsgård. I mean, we all love a Skarsgård. So he played Father Merrin in both those movies. They're both, for me, I like them all. Except for The Heretic, almost any of the Exorcist universe movies have all been good, but nothing will ever top The Exorcist. It's my number one horror movie. I mean, because again, it's character, it's effects, it's cinematography. I would say that obviously, because JR is going to 100% agree with me, the most famous score in horror is, the Halloween score. Exorcist is number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the 2 most iconic scores in movies. So, yeah, I mean, we told you guys it's a 5. If you have not checked this out, I mean, like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
For all you guys, we hope you enjoyed the episode, coming back. It's 50 years, do yourself a favor. If you have not watched the movie, make sure you do. Turns out everybody rented it, so share the love. I mean,
I will say really quick, when you put the format out and I saw that you were doing this, I was like, hello, because this is 3 corners for a reason. You guys have your found footage, the psychologist is in, the slashers with Rick, and my corner has always been Exorcist possessionals. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I gotta jump on this. And this is, like Joe, my number 1. So
oh yeah. I mean, so make sure to check the movie out. If this is your first time watching us, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow for updates, because I promise you this channel has a lot of updates. We have a lot of shows dropping constantly. Until next time, Rick, we missed you. I got my last one for here. We all cheer for big bottles of beer, and as Rick would say, stay scared.